So is it working? Did I turn myself off?
Yes. No, recording has started.
Okay. Yeah, I turned my front camera off.
Oh, okay. Okay, I think we're here. Okay. So I'm Kim, and I'm assist Larry with his shows and with his classes. And I am a non-practicing graphic designer at the moment. I've taken quite some time off, but I do a lot of collage, a lot like getting away from images lately and doing a lot more with paper and putting colors together. It's just sort of been like, especially this summer, it's just been really fun. But like looking at all of Larry's images while we're going through his stuff for his show, that's really been interesting and inspiring. And
it's amazing how much has sort of accumulated.
Yeah. It's been a big sort through a lot of stuff and a lot of images. And then the other day I was just finally like, well, they're all like good, so we're not going to put in anything that's like, oh, that's, makes me want to throw up.
Right.
But it's just kind of picking ones that are representational and some go together and tell a little bit of a story. So
yeah, I mean, the more you have, the more challenging it becomes because you have to make decisions. One of the fun parts of being an artist is decision making. Probably the hardest thing. I don't know.
Yeah, we were actually talking like knowing when to stop with a collage because.
Yeah, we can talk about that
forever.
Yeah, any questions you have, feel free to ask.
I'll actually put Larry's email and our Instagram things in the chat if you're interested. And if you want to put your Instagram handles, if you have one or things, that's a good place to do it. And I don't think it's called chat on Teams, but conversation maybe.
So yeah, so all right. So who wants to go next? Candace?
Okay. I'm in Whidbey Island, which is the greater Seattle area, but I just thought I'd do a shout out for the island. And I really enjoy, when people ask, I say like, I'm into the mixed media thing because I like photography. I've really gotten interested in monoprinting with a gelatin plate, like a homemade one. And it's so much fun. And just goofing around with that. So I have a whole drawer full of things like from the photographs I've taken and prints because I make cards. And so I feel like I have like this bolus of things to paw through today that I'm looking forward to doing that. And glad to be here. Just took one class from you before with the Trace monoprint.
Oh, okay.
And so here I am again.
There were a lot of people. That was through Winslow, wasn't it? Or was that Pratt too?
It was Pratt, which is
earlier this summer.
I did that also with at Winslow Art Center, and we had like, I don't know, 150 people, some crazy amount.
Wow.
That's free.
Well, I just want to do a shout out to Paula, who's my friend, and she got me connected with Pratt. So.
Oh, awesome.
Great. Well, yeah, it's good that Pratt is sort of getting more back on track. So, do you do printmaking at Pratt too then?
No, I haven't. I've just been doing some online courses with Linda Germain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a press or are you hand printing?
It's this gelatin and glycerin plate that I make at home, and then I use that.
It's the jelly plates, but she's making her own jelly plates.
Yeah.
I haven't tried that. I actually have one of those, but I want to do some hand printing. I have a couple presses here, but I think to teach a class, you'd have to really do hand printing because most people don't have a press.
Yeah.
So keep checking back. It's something I am interested in, and I am going to be teaching at Pratt with my another fellow teacher. We're going to be teaching a textile um, arts class, and that will include printing on cloth. So, which is pretty interesting. The difference between printing on cloth and paper, big difference. The approach is different and it feels different, and for me, not so intimidating. So, all right, well, welcome, Rachel.
Hi. So I am a collage artist, and I have taken a couple classes at Pratt that I really enjoyed. That was a few years ago now. So I have 2 young kids, and so I'm right now I'm trying to like reestablish an art practice.
Yeah.
It's hard with them, and then with the pandemic and everything. So this is my first like foray into just like re-engaging, I guess, with this world and with my own art practice. But yeah, I've been doing collage on and off for decades. So I'm here to learn some new things and get my engine going again.
Sure. Did you take a class with Ricky Wolf?
I did, yeah. I took a class with Ricky Wolf, and that was really fun.
Yeah.
It was cool.
She's very
so
good teacher.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
And I'm in West Seattle, so that's
Oh, okay. You stuck over there because of the bridge.
Exactly.
And the pandemic and everything else.
I know, and all of it. So
yeah. Well, I know with kids, it adds a whole other wrinkle to things. One thing is, just maybe scaling down or something, so you can.
Yeah. Well, I asked about your garage because I have a garage now, and I'm thinking of clearing out some space in it.
Yeah.
So,
that's always good.
Yeah.
A little place to go to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Well, collage is interesting. I mean, it's kind of a cluttery business, but
right.
But that's easy to clean up. Painting and those kind of things a little more messy, but
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Well, this is going to be fun, I think. I hope.
Yeah, me too.
Paola?
Hello.
Hi.
I am somebody who dabbles in different things. I think the connection for me is what really intrigues me about collage is I am a quilter. And so the notion of taking something and pulling it apart and putting it into different formations is really appealing to me, and really thinking about sort of shape and line and colors. Um, uh, and I've done mono printing classes at Pratt a number of times, and a lot in time and played around in the studio and have really loved it. And did your draw through collage class with Candace a little while ago.
And you did that at Pratt too?
Yeah, I did it on the Pratt online class. And then the other thing, oh shoot, there was something else, but I can't remember. Anyway, so sort of like trying to figure out how to take my interest and love of quilting and not transition it, but sort of broaden it to paper.
You might like that textile class that's coming up.
Yeah.
That I'm teaching with Gwen Lennox. It's like stamping and sewing and quilting kind of ideas and printing. I think that'll be a good class. Quilting is like one of the first forms of collage, in my opinion. I mean, people were doing that kind of collage way before Picasso, who's considered the originator of collage as an art gallery form, but I love quilting. I do a few every now and then.
Cool.
Just Yeah, I really like it. I think it's a great art form. And
Just did like sort of a quilting with paper assignment at
yeah,
in another class. So
just yeah, not too long ago.
Mhm.
Like the crazy quilts, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it
I-
goes a lot faster with paper.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
goes a lot faster with paper, and I've done that with Karina Del Rosario,
Oh, yes.
who's done some of that. So yeah,
Yeah, great.
and block printing. So from her as
Perfect.
well.
Yeah, and all that could be done on cloth and then used as quilts
So
for quilting. Yeah, that's great. Well, welcome. I was going to say something else,
Thank
but
you.
it slipped out of my mind.
Thank you.
So say your name again. Is Selena?
Selena, yeah.
Selena. Okay.
Hi, I'm Selena. I'm in Seattle. And I guess in terms of like art experience, I've done mostly like drawing, I would say. That's where I've kind of like spent most of my time. But I've been really wanting to branch out into other things because like I just feel like drawing, sometimes I get so like caught up in the details that like with collage, I've really appreciated like taking a step back and seeing the like composition of things and just starting to take pictures. Like I don't have much of a background in photography, but I'm just interested to learn. So I'm just here kind of with an open mind, just, I
Great.
don't know, to learn whatever.
Well, yeah, and I think using photography and not in the traditional sense, but using it as a tool to kind of enhance your collages or, you know, it helps you just look at things differently. And especially if you kind of throw out the idea of composition, you know, the golden mean and, you know, just get rid of that and just use the cameras like getting in close and abstracting things and combining that with other images, putting them together as a collage. All that can be really handy and helpful in your process. And because of this, the nature of this class, I'm just going to be kind of talking about that sort of thing and showing you images and I even have my camera. I'm going to try to like show you how I would take a photograph with my camera, but you can do that with your phone as well. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but can you do macro with iPhones? Get close.
Don't believe there's a setting. You can sometimes get an extra lens.
Yeah.
That was back in the, I mean, I started using my iPhone in 2012 for photography and was really into it at that point. And there was,
You can get pretty close. Look at my down camera.
yeah, you can get close. You can get,
It must almost have a kind of a really long or a wide lens thing.
yeah.
So it's good enough. And I think you can do black and white, but maybe not. I like to shoot in black and white just
You can't
because.
shoot in black and white. You can definitely change it to black and white. But I think you can. I think I did that in a class because you can, like with quilting or with anything, you can make it black and white, and then you can see the values of the colors.
Right.
You can knock out the color. So if you're looking to kind of get a tonality that's the same, you can photograph something in black and white and see if you're getting there.
So you could just edit the photo and make it black and white, I guess.
Right. But I do think there is a setting.
A setting.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know.
Now that you said that.
I'm like I said, I'm not really that familiar with other than using it as a teaching, you know, a down camera. I don't really.
It may be just an editing thing. I can't
Yeah.
remember how I did it.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing I like about digital cameras. You can do some stuff like that.
It's a great tool for collage.
Absolutely. Yeah. I had mentioned that earlier just to some of you, how you can use it to look at your collages or, you know, put your, if you've arranged a collage and you've built a collage and then you want to glue it down, just using your camera to photograph it or your iPhone to photograph it so you don't forget. It's amazing how easy it is to forget. Even the slightest difference can throw off a collage, you know.
And I mean, I always think I'm going to remember, like I lay it all out and I'm like, oh, this is great. And then it's,
yeah,
then
then
it's gone.
It didn't work. Okay, well, I'm gonna try to go to, did I miss anybody, by the way?
Now, Lori, who was here in the beginning, seems to have disappeared.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully she can come back.
Yeah, I'm not seeing her on the list either, so I don't know what's going on, but
Well,
I'll
if you
keep an eye out.
keep an eye out.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to go to my the folder that has some images in it next.
You say that with such confidence.
Yeah. Okay. So do I go to screen? I guess. Try that. And let's
Big.
see. Hang on. Let me,
Oh, that's Lori. Maybe you were just buried in my.
oh, Lori, we.
Hi, I lost my internet connection.
Oh, okay.
So
Can
I
you do
haven't
it?
heard anything for 20 minutes.
Oh,
Okay,
that's
so
too bad. It is recorded, so. Can you just give us a little biography and you know, just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, well, I've done a lot of different kinds of art, but I'm sort of focused on collage these days. Doing different kinds of collage, taking different classes online.
Great. And yeah, and you said you have done some digital collage.
Yes.
And
Yeah, I started off doing digital using my own photographs and making collages.
It's great. And it's funny how people have a funny reaction if you say, oh, I do digital photography or digital collage. It's almost as if they think that those things just appear and you have no input, like they're magic or something. And so people go, well, it can't really be real because they think that it's not real, even though it is. So we have a ways to go, and it's interesting how things are changing. You know, with the advent of NFT and all that sort of thing, we are entering in an interesting time in the world of art making. You know, but that's how it works. I mean, that propels us forward, and it's interesting to me. I'm gonna let me see. Can you see this big?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to do, I don't even know how, I guess I can do a slideshow. But the trouble with slideshows, they go a little too fast. So I guess I'll just kind of go, and if you have any questions, so I like to use my own photography in collages. I do tend to do, I do some digital, mostly I do them, you know, on my desk, but I have no problem either way. Lately, I've been doing a lot of work with words, finding especially captions. I'm really fascinated by adding odd captions that kind of create a kind of narrative, even though it's sort of not really a narrative. So this, I'll just show you some images, and I like to combine them with my images with magazine images and that sort of thing.
So maybe you should. Which ones are your images in that one?
So this one and this one. And this is from an old magazine from the 30s. These are all.
Can I ask, and this could be for everybody here, where do you guys source material?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, lately I've been using, because I was a photographer, so I have like thousands of prints. Mm-hmm. And I was just mentioning that to somebody. I almost threw them away because there's just so many of them. But now I've started using them in collage. And so that's one of my sources. I just have tons of prints that I've made in dark rooms over the years. The other sources, I like encyclopedias, old encyclopedias, not only for the imagery, but also for the text. And a good example is right here. This is from an old encyclopedia, and I love the font. It's a beautiful old font. So I'm always looking for.
Check out used bookstores.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Right?
You know,
Okay.
there's National Geographics. There's I don't use a lot of like I don't have a huge backlog of magazines, or I tend to use one or two books and an encyclopedia. And for me, it works. I find what I need always. And so I don't really have, in fact, I found if I have too much information, it overwhelms me. And I find that I don't get much done. Another thing I will recommend for all of you, though, if you are like, if you do have magazines or books that you want to use, I would recommend that you go from the back to the front. Because one thing I've noticed in classes is people get they get distracted by the articles in the magazines. And if you go front to back, you find yourself reading the articles and not removing the images that you want to use in the collage. So if you go from the back, then there's less of a chance that you will get distracted by the article.
So I would add that we've gotten stuff at Value Village and
Yeah.
Goodwill, Craigslist. We got a whole set of encyclopedias that I'm still trying to figure out where to put them all. But you need less stuff than you think. Like, you know, like a lot of our friends, you know, and me too, like just get this hoard going and it's overwhelming. But one or two like kind of cool books and some paper, and you're, you know, and some maybe a photo, you know, photographs of your own, you're off and
Yeah.
running. And
Cool.
sometimes
I think
having
that's
some limit.
helpful. Thanks. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and all of us probably have like color snapshots from, you know, like my mom like took hundreds of photographs. So she was really into photographing the sky. So I've inherited a bunch of her photographs of the sky in Oregon, which is quite beautiful, in sunsets. So she took lots of interesting cloud photographs. And so things like that can be really great for collage. And in that case, you know, it's something that's kind of personal and sort of, it reminds me of my mom. So it adds another layer, which I like. These are all my photographs. One thing I'm interested in doing, and I don't have a darkroom anymore, but I used to. And one thing I would do is I got this stencil cutter that they sell at Michael's. It's basically like a wood burning tool, but it's got a really sharp tip on it. And what you can do with that is cut through plastic to make stencils. But what I used it for was to take old negatives, and I would just remove the images of the people, and then I would print them, and that's how I got that effect. And I like this effect because it has an interesting mystery to it. And then you know, like I added just a part of a picture there. It looks like, kind of gives a kind of human quality to that tree. And then you know, I do a lot of self-portraits. These are like just portraits I did of myself wearing odd masks that I make. This is like a bird mask. And then just adding an interesting bit of text that kind of pulls the whole thing together, even though it kind of doesn't, but it adds a sort of mystery to it.
And as far as like the people you burned out of that, you could, you know, in a collage, go in and cut them out and play with that negative, positive space.
Absolutely, yeah, or paint them out with ink. I've seen people do that as well. Yeah, so I do a lot of my collages. You know, I consider these collages, by the way, and even though they're just 2-3 elements. So this is like an image that I made. It's actually a portrait of my nephews, but then I burned the print with a torch, and then I rephotographed it. And you know, in that process, they got completely, you know, deconstructed. And this is like a silhouette that I made. I mean, a still life that I made, and then I just collaged that head in there. So, one thing I like to do in my collages is to combine different things, disparate images, and to see if they create some kind of narrative. So I do a lot of black and white photography, and so these are all my photographs. And then also using text and documents. This is a document from Nazi Germany, which is another story, but I don't want to go into it too much. But in Germany, Hitler was really into astrology. And so everybody in Germany during that period had to have their charts done, which is very strange. And this is a photograph I took of my Aunt Althea's house, and they moved her to a nursing home, and they just left all her clothes and everything behind. So I did a lot of photographs of that house and all those dresses. Once again, I consider this a 3-element collage, the type, this, and this. So this is one of my photographs. This is a found photograph from an encyclopedia. Oh, that's the other thing. I like old encyclopedias for like the early 1900s, especially the ones that show artwork, like famous paintings. This is a famous painting by, I can't remember who it is, Van Eyck maybe. But when they always print them in black and white, and it's interesting, the black and white images of paintings, they look more like photographs than they do paintings, especially when you combine them with actual photographs. It's kind of interesting. This is all just a piece about insomnia. That's why I included poppies, the king who could not sleep. So this is like one of those found painting from a book, and then I used one of my photographs. And the great thing about using your own photographs, even if they're not like high quality photographs, it doesn't matter when they become part of a collage. Like if I were to exhibit this as a photograph, people would be like looking at it from a photographer standpoint, and oh, it's like that value is not right. Oh, there's dust spots, whatever. I'm not really interested in that, and I like the fact that I started using them as collage. It erased all that kind of trepidation about making a good photograph, which I know how to do, but it doesn't interest me at all. I'm interested in the narrative and the images in their own right. Oops. This is a picture of me wearing my Aunt Althea's dress, by the way. You're probably going to hear some chickens in the background. They can get kind of noisy sometimes. I was kind of combining this with text, just quotes that I thought were interesting. I cannot believe in a God who wants to be praised all the time. And then you combine that with weird imagery. It's kind of, it creates an interesting dialogue or narrative. I'm interested in puppets. I make a lot of puppets. This is actually puppets that my first wife and I made together. She made herself and I made myself. kind of as Punch and Judy. I don't know if you know who that is, but so some things are going to be kind of random. The other thing I'm really interested in, and I'm going to be teaching a class at Pratt coming up on building a diorama, and so there's some examples that are going to be popping up in here, but creating basically a little stage and putting dirt in it and doing painted backgrounds and then added rocks. I'm really interested in British land art, standing stones and stone circles and, like Stonehenge and all that sort of thing, which is just very mysterious and interesting. And it was just fun to kind of try to recreate that. This is actually based on a photograph that I found in the archives of the British Museum or something. And it was a picture of somebody looking at one of these standing stones. So this is fun to do in a diorama, just making like little paper cuts that you can stand up and photograph. Also, I'm kind of obsessed with Abraham Lincoln. This is my father's Advil bottle. The other thing I've been doing a lot lately, and for all of you, for your printmakers, I've been doing a lot of rubbings, making paper cuts, and then putting them under a piece of paper and going over them with the graphite sticks. It can be really interesting, the quality. So this is some of my later, more recent collages. Definitely, you can. I don't really have any some of the early ones to show you, but definitely a lot more minimal. And combining rubbings with images. Here's a good example, like just doing 1, 2, 3, 4 different rubbings, different graphites, and then combining them with a set of photographs. Same here with this one. I've been really obsessed with the story of my mother's cousin who drowned in a well when all the kids were playing out, and she fell down in Oregon. There's a lot of old houses that had open wells, and that's what she was like. I think 3 years old or something. She fell into that well. It's always interesting to add text to these images. It creates a narrative or a dialogue that's interesting.
That's another.
And this is go ahead.
Oh, that's another one where he burned out the image.
Yeah. This has been cut out and then printed, and then I did a drawing of it, and then kind of created a sort of narrative there.
You can sort of collage all of your skills, your drawings,
Yeah. Paper cutting is another form of drawing, and I highly recommend trying it. It's very satisfying, and you actually draw differently with scissors than you do if you were using a pencil. I find that I can draw certain things better with scissors than I can with a pencil. It's interesting. One of the books that I like to use is The Family of Man. It's a collection of photography put together by Edward Steichen during I think in the 50s. But it's just a collection of photographers of different subjects, like the subject of love or children or whatever. And so what I did here is I just cut out part of an image from a bigger photograph and then added a text. I'm trying to surprise Daddy. I creep behind his chair. This one I think is just funny. I am cross today. I am angry today. And this is from I think this is a photograph by either Walker Evans or Dorothea Lange. I just like the way the arms are crossed and then finding that bit of wording. I grew up during the Vietnam War, so that had a huge effect on my life. The nice thing about the rubbings, you guys, using them in collage, you can make a rubbing over and over and over again and create multiple images that you could use in your collage, juxtaposed against photography or whatever, or cut out and put on top of a photograph. This is a shadow print or a rayograph that I did of a wisteria bean. So now I want to, these are what's coming up. I think this is going to be showing. No, never mind. This is just photographing photographs. In this case, photographing collages and then putting them together. And I have a bunch of those, and I'm going to show those to you next. That's the photo. That's the image of the house that I rephotographed. I teach a writing class with another artist, another writer, and we had to do kind of our names, and so to kind of give your somebody or yourself kind of a nickname, or it's kind of like it's like in Native Americans where they go through a ceremony and they name the person. That's kind of that idea. My mother's name lives in a book, disappointed, lonely, beset by secrets, McClellan. And this is like an old photograph from an old negative that I printed. And then this is a photograph of a bed sheet flying in the wind. And I like the way they work together, because this is also her. There's a whole series of photographs where my mother is wearing a formal, and then there's photographs of her sister also wearing that same photograph, and then
same dress. Same dress.
Same dress, yeah. And she was like, I think like the 9th grade or something. I think this was the year she quit school.
Wow.
Yeah. And once again, photographing photographs. This is what I've done here. 2 different photographs that I photographed and then put them together as a collage. And it's kind of like just a little thing about my sister, who's sort of OCD. This one you have to kind of look at for a while because it's a little hard on the eyes, but it's actually a portrait of my face. It's actually a cast. I cast my face in plaster and photographed it and then juxtaposed it against this horse. This horse is on its side. This is in Dresden, Germany, by the way, which is an amazing place. More of those diorama pictures. I think that's going to be fun. There's the photograph that basically I made a you know, a kind of collage diorama picture based on this. These are tiny little bricks that I made, and then in the diorama then photographed them. And all of these could be really interesting as collage elements too, you know, combining this with different images found or created. Okay, now I'm gonna, anybody have any questions? Okay, I'm going to get out of
I have a
this.
question.
Yes.
Do you always use the actual photographs or actual cut up books, or do you scan things in and make reproductions of them so you can use them more than once?
Most of the ones I showed you are the originals. I'm not opposed to doing that. I don't have a very good printer, so if I had a better printer, I probably would print more things out and use it. I would like, it would be nice to have that kind of a tool. I have a laser printer, like a little photocopier, and I can do some things with that, especially if I'm doing photocopy transfer. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's a way to take a photocopy with acetone and put it on different surfaces. But yeah, most of the ones I showed you are just photographs that but the diorama pictures, those are all those are just on the computer. They're digital photographs because I don't have a way to print them out yet. But I try to, you know, I tend to, anything I do digitally, I could easily do analog because, you know, my work is so closely connected to, you know, so I could easily, you know, it's a large file, so it could actually be printed on, you know, as a inkjet or a giclée or whatever. Or even if I had a darkroom, I could make that into a negative and print it, you know, the old-fashioned way. I want to show you. So I'm gonna do this as a slideshow. But these are just images that I've photographed with my little digital camera, just for ideas and this is a great way to think about collage materials. It's a good way to make sort of interesting collage materials. So I'll start with this one, and I'm just going to do this as a slideshow, so it'll go kind of fast. If you see something that you want to ask me about, I'll stop the slideshow and answer you. I'll be happy to do that. So
how did you achieve that?
So this is a photograph of a strainer up against the sky.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The thing is, you know, just getting in there close. This is, I don't know what this is. It's part of an old stove, I think. Like a watering can. This is the watering can. I actually forgot what that was. I had to kind of figure that out. I didn't edit these, so I apologize, but it'll give you an idea. This is just holding a candle holder up against the sky. And all of these could be, you know, you could do a collage version of these too, very easily. But they definitely can inspire you to think about, you know, how can I create something like this, for an example, with paint? This is broken glass, piece of plastic. This is a hammer stone that I found. It's actually an Indian artifact. This is part of an old wrench. When you sort of separate them out of reality or out of context, they become kind of interesting. This is a photograph of the bristles of a wire brush. And, you know, you could turn that upside down. I have no idea what this is. I can't remember what this is. It's kind of interesting, though. but just getting in, this is like part of a collage. So that's what I've done here, is just go in really close with the collage with the camera and just isolate. I mean, all this is beautiful. This could be a really great collage. Side of my not my Airstream, my little Shasta trailer, camp trailer, 1957. Just a piece of dirty cloth. This is the thing that squirts water on the windshield of my car. Rubber hoses are kind of beautiful, like snakes. This is like the inside of a light bulb. Plants. Bananas, I think. Grapes and water. The bottom of a bowl looks like an egg. But to me, this is beautiful, and you could do this as a collage really easily. Same with this. The edge of a bowl, I think that's quite beautiful. Putting the camera inside of a large glass and then photographing down to the bottom, and it distorts everything. Part of a basket. This is close-ups of those fluorescent light bulbs that are awful, but they're kind of beautiful as objects. This is another diorama picture. That little figure was an inch tall. I was photographing bubbles in water. Look how beautiful that is. And that could easily be made into a collage too, you know, just using cut paper, or combine it with cut paper, or combine those all together, or with images. It's kind of beautiful, isn't it?
Definitely.
Gears, old, you know, machinery. All of this could be made into a, you know, a cut paper collage if you wanted to. I don't know what this is. This is me where I grew up. Abstract photographing, you know, breaking things down to just minimal. This is just some old metal things that on a beach somewhere. Old signs, big heavy machinery. This is a whole series of light poles that I did. I like the way they look, especially when you photograph them looking up. They look like UFOs or something. This is in Seattle at the natural gas building, which is no longer there. Railroad bridges, jet trails, something I'm also very interested in. By the way, these are all done with a $1 camera that I got at the thrift store, a little plastic panoramic camera. So you don't need to have like a high-tech camera. You know, it's the eye that takes the photograph. This is the World's Fair. This is some of those. So this is where I did these yesterday, by the way, or day before. Just photographing photographs. Which can kind of create some pretty interesting things to collage with. And I would say, I mentioned this yesterday, Ken Burns was definitely an influence. The way he did those documentaries about the Civil War. Basically just moving a camera over a still photograph. I like this one, looks like a map. I like how kind of mysterious this is with that image. The thing about doing these photographs, it's full of surprises and something that you could use. And, you know, I did these in black and white. You could do these in color as well. The lines of paper. I don't know what that is. Mistake. lights, you know, shooting into lights. This is encaustic wax that I paint with. And so they're just blocks of wax, but I like the way they look like the moon or something. And once again, that could be combined with you know, as a background for collage. You know, you could cut magazine images out. This is just a piece of clay. This is a surface of an encaustic painting, lots of scratches, but I like the way that looks, and that could be a great background. Also encaustic. Some of these are better than others, but the whole idea is just to make a lot of images. You don't have to, don't overthink it. Just do like 100 of them in a row, you know. It's like a styrofoam container that Kim brought me recently. I think that might be it. Or I screwed up. Let me check.
As far as iPhones go, I have this silly thing. It's a Canon selfie printer. It's SELPHY, and it prints out color photos from your iPhone, and they're amazingly durable. And it goes on photographic paper, and I've had a lot of fun with it. I had it for a long time because I was going to take, you know, send my mom some photos or something, and I never quite did that. Well, here's one. This is the coronavirus, but and I just took it off the internet actually. But they're really
Move a little bit here so I can see. Okay, hold there. And what does it do?
It's a printer by Canon, and it just prints directly from your iPhone, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
And it comes, the paper comes in little packets with the toner, so they're all kind of like expire at the same moment. You know, you use up the paper, the toner's gone. And because I really like Polaroids, and so it sort of fills that gap in a way. And but you can cut them, you can draw on them, you can stick stuff to them. I mean, they are shiny, they're not like retro looking or anything like that, but it's an amazing little toy.
So, but you could put different surfaces of paper in them, I would imagine.
No, because it's these cartridges.
Oh, okay.
You could probably put like a clear gesso, you know, that has that little bit of grit on it or something, or you could sand them even a little bit and maybe take some of that down.
Yeah, or even spray a matte finish on them, I suppose.
Yeah. Oh, totally. That would do
That
it
would
too.
be great, I mean, especially for doing collages where you could just like make a whole bunch of those and then collage them.
Yeah, I've used it a lot in the last year, but just when we were talking about iPhones, it occurred to me that it's fun. I like the paper too. I've actually drawn on the paper with Sharpies. Sharpies are about the only thing that sticks to it, but
Bring it when you come out. I want to see that.
Okay, it's a fun. Yeah, and there's newer ones. Mine's like, you know, from several years ago because I didn't like really bust in. I demanded it for Christmas or something, and then I didn't use it, but now I'm using it.
I like all those kind of things. All those like SX70s and old, you know, those old Polaroids. And a while back, a few years ago, people were making movies with those little Fisher-Price pixel cameras.
Right, I love that. I would love to.
And they're completely weird and surreal, and yeah, I mean, you don't need to have like high tech gear to make good images to work with, you know.
No, and I work with laser prints, or, you know, prints, just whatever printer I have, you know, black and white. And I've gone to Kinko's and, you know, done that too. So
yeah. I have done things like using like, I don't know if you can see, where am I?
I can see you. Yeah, what is that? I like that.
So that's a photocopy that I did several generations. And then made it into a negative, and then I printed it in the darkroom.
It's the problem.
So, you know,
with photocopiers now, it's hard to make them look crappy.
Yeah,
You keep like doing it and they're still pretty good.
yeah, yeah. It's like those Google Translator now is pretty
Yeah.
good. It used to be terrible, which
Right.
I loved because you could like make all kinds of weird, you know, you just translate something over and over again to different languages, and by the time you're done, you have something very surreal and surprising.
Yeah. So also I was going to say that like this coronavirus picture, I just have pulled pictures off the internet too and printed them on that selfie thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So some are my own and some are just.
Yeah, you could easily do that and use your cropping tools and distort and blow things up and
Yeah. So it's kind of gauged to like just print right off your phone and make it look good, like you're just printing your Instagram photos. But if you do go in and do stuff, and like we even altered it so we could do my husband's passport photos to make them the right size. You kind of have to game it a little bit, but that's
Yeah.
fun.
I didn't know those existed. That sounds great.
Yeah, I'll bring it out. It's really fun. And it's little.
Yeah.
I think there's even smaller kinds of things like that now that you can take with you on vacation or print stickers. And
Yeah. Well, the photography world, they're scrambling, always trying to, you know, a few years ago before all this happened, it was a whole another world. And now digital technology put a lot of the photographic world out of business, including me. I worked in that business for 20 years, and then digital technology sort of put an end to my career in that way.
well, like
People did their own photographs pretty
you
easily.
said, nobody thought it would change as fast as it did.
Yeah, it was immediate.
They weren't able to pivot with it.
This is a photograph that I did in Berlin of a building, but I rephotographed it. I used my macro and got in close, and I didn't realize when I took this photograph, but there's a hand waving there. I don't know if you can see that or not. That was kind of a surprise.
That's so creepy.
Yeah. Photographing just bed sheets, you know, for like beautiful abstract lighting. All of this could be interesting to be used with, you know, other images or just words. Or I was trying cut paper to photograph it, but it's hard to hold it with one hand and take photographs with the other. So it was not that successful, but
I kind of like it a lot.
something you could do, though. You could get really, and if you want to look at a photographer's work, and I don't know if it's on the list, but his name is Frederick Somner. He was I think, German photographer, but he did a lot of paper cutting and then rephotographing the paper cutting, and they're quite beautiful. He had a real controlled situation where he could have a nice background and lighting and play with that. He is a very good photographer. He's actually in that book of Family of Man. They have one of his photographs, but he was really a surrealist photographer and did a lot of something called cliché vert, which was basically painting on glass and then in a dark room printing that onto photographic paper. And you know, lots of experimentation, which I love. That's sort of my jam too. I like to experiment. Some photographs of the Statue of Liberty. I can't remember what that is. These are photographs of statues in Dresden. They're photographs of photographs. So I like the way this came out because all of this is just the way the lighting was hitting the surface of the paper. But you could actually exploit that, play around with the way the light hits the photographic paper, for an example. and incorporate that into the image. The thing that was interesting about these statues in Dresden is they were all coal black, like silhouettes. I mean, this is kind of lit pretty strongly by afternoon light, but what you see when you went there is like everything was just like a silhouette. It was very strange, more like this. This is another one of that little figure that's like an inch tall. This is like just one of those light fixtures. And then something like this would be very easy to do as a collage. So, a black circle and then a triangle, against a different colored sky or whatever. And
Yeah.
also
Talked about that, like making collages off of your, like abstracting stuff with your camera, and then you could go back and turn it into a collage.
Exactly. Well, that's what, especially those first ones I showed with the color, that's what we were doing. And in a longer class, of course, I would give you some assignments and have you do that. But yeah, definitely you could easily make these into abstract. Even like making a collage, photographing it in black and white, and doing a diptych of an actual photograph next to a collage that you made look kind of like the photograph. And then, then they would play off of each other. Somebody said they do a lot of drawing. Photographing your drawings can be really interesting. This is just a real close-up of just a tiny segment of a drawing. But I kind of like it because it's pretty gestural. I was not trying to carefully draw. There was just sort of, I just wanted to kind of jot down the idea of a fence and some trees behind it. But if you go in there with the camera really close and just sort of isolate that, it becomes kind of interesting. And, once again, that's some way to play with your drawing, juxtaposed against magazine imagery or photographic imagery. More paper. These are a little better, I think. Then photographing things out and about. I think I don't think I showed you this yet, but these are just balloons in the sun. I think it was like somebody was selling a house.
Oh, cool.
But I love the way balloons look in the sun. They're fun to photograph, especially in black and white. You get all these tones and this would be a great component in a collage too. Even doing this easily done in paper cuts or rubbings. You could make these shapes and then do rubbings of them and then combine them in a collage. These are bullet holes in glass. The side of a grain silo. Actually, I like this photograph quite a lot. It's in Phoenix, Arizona. Somebody's watering their lawn. It's kind of beautiful, though. Umbrellas. Oops. Well, I guess I think that might be it. Anybody have any questions?
This may be a very basic question, but I'm curious about like copyright and different kinds of photos. It looks like a lot of them are your own, but you use some other like encyclopedia images.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how concerned I should be about that.
I'm never very concerned about it. I mean, if somebody wants to sue you for copyright, they can. I mean, there's no matter what you do, no matter how legal you could be, if somebody really wants to go after you, they could. Normally, what they would do, they would send you a cease and desist letter. And the chances that they're going to see your collage are somewhat slim. I mean, I don't really think about it, people seeing mine either. Usually things like encyclopedias, those are educational, and I think they're a little more, the copyright issue is a little looser on that sort of thing. But like I said, if somebody wants to, they could. There is an artist named Richard Prince. Do you guys know who that is? Lately, he's been actually taking people's Instagram photographs, just downloading them, not without asking, and then printing them in large, like, I don't know, 3 by 4 feet, and showing them in galleries. I think he's selling them for $75,000 each, but not even asking whether he can or can't. But then there's Jeff Koons. Do you know who that is? He got sued recently, well, a couple years ago, for
you're breaking up. You froze. You froze for a second, Larry.
Am I back now?
You're coming back. Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. You're better.
Am I back?
Yeah.
Okay. So Jeff Koons, he made a ceramic version of a photograph of a couple with all their German Shepherd dogs and puppies, and they sued him for that, for copyright. And they actually won. It was for $75,000, I think, also. And but so that was a bit chilling. But Jeff Koons is a millionaire, and so they're more likely to go after somebody like that. And if you use, if you're doing collages that are, especially if you're just using parts of a collage, it's pretty hard for somebody to actually stumble across that. I mean, it would be pretty unlikely. So I never worry about it. But if you are concerned, make your own photographs, which, that's easy to do nowadays, and print them out and use them as collage. The other thing is Library of Congress. If you type in copyright-free imagery, there is so much. The Library of Congress has millions, I believe, of copyright-free public domain imagery. Like that Family of Man photograph, a lot of those are FSA photographs, which are in the public domain. And so, those are legal, and you can use those any way you want. And so if you go to I think the British Museum also they just uploaded a whole bunch of images that are copyright free as well. But the Library of Congress, yeah, that's a great resource. So if you look up public domain imagery, that's all stuff that you could use. There is, everything is copyright free. I think if you go back to what, late 1920s, maybe, anything up to that point is also public domain and copyright free. So there's a lot of resources. That's what I'm saying mostly. The other thing is old European magazines, like pre-war stuff, or even war, during the war. A lot of that stuff is not going to be copyrighted either, because it's European for one thing. And so I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, the important thing is to make these collages. You can always cross that bridge when you come to it. You're not going to be sued, or if anything, they'll just say you can't use that image, and then you could write back and say, well, let me use it, please. It's for education, or it's mostly if you're trying to like make a buck on somebody else's imagery. Like if you were to, you know, make a real obvious copy of somebody's work and then sell it to a magazine, there would probably be some issues about that, because most magazines would want proof of, you know, they want models releases, they want some proof that it's your image. But I think the important thing is to really to make the images and, you know, shoot first, ask questions later. But I do get asked that question a lot. Who's that little person? A pretty hair.
This is Tara.
Tara? Hi,
Tara. Yeah.
Hi.
Want to say
My
hi?
sister has like exact same hair color.
Oh yeah, it's pretty unique.
Yeah, it's like a real bright red ginger.
Yeah.
They would say in England. One thing I wanted to, oh yeah, let me, I just want to demonstrate how I would photograph stuff. I had to charge my battery. I'll be right back. So, I'm not sure how this is going to work, but so I will go down. You can't really see, but you know, I will basically go get really close with the camera.
Oh, do you want to switch to your like either your down camera or your front camera? Because you're
I'm going to do the, yeah, I'm going to switch to the down camera. Can you do that for me, or?
I don't know anymore.
I got it. Spotlight. That's what I want. I keep forgetting that I can do that kind of thing. So if I were to photograph like this, I might come in really close.
Oh wait, hold on. You got to stop the screen shares, I think, with the.
Oh, okay. I thought I did. So I'll X that. Okay. Did that work?
Yeah, and now we see your down camera.
So I will just get really
like pull away from your body a little bit and more towards your computer, like maybe there. Then we can see your.
Yeah. I mean, it's not very good optics, but
just how you're positioning.
So I photograph that, and then I can show you. Does that look like anything?
No.
Not hard to see. Let me find something better.
But your camera's set on like macro and black and white.
Yeah, it's set on the it's kind of hard to actually see that, but basically I'm just getting in really close, and you can try that with your phone if you have one now even. But I just, you know, just using photographs that I have in my collection. Just trying to find something that's it would be nice to be able to do this as you know, if I could plug into the computer, but I don't know how to do that. It's really hard to see. It just doesn't work. But basically what I'm doing is I'm just, you know, getting in there close, and it could be anything, you know, I'm using photographs here, but it could just be, you know, here, like drawings. Getting really close, changing the angles. What that is. It's kind of impossible to show this, unfortunately. Maybe this will show. There, you can kind of see the how you can get really close. And I changed the angle a little bit, so now the bottom of the dog's jaw is bigger. Can you see that?
Yes.
Writing, just like words.
Yeah, it is sort of like what you used to be able to do with a photocopier.
Yeah.
You still can if you can find one that's not that good.
So I'm just, photographing words. That could be really interesting to use in a collage.
And then, of course, now with iPads and Procreate, you can take these images in there and draw on them directly and
Yeah.
manipulate them, and, do complete digital collage stuff.
I just photographed the photograph of that clock. So let's see. So it's this. But I can, get in there close and just kind of reimagine it. And then I could print that out and combine that with another image somehow. How this is. Oops. I made the mistake of using acrylic paint, which sticks to everything. This is kind of interesting to photograph. I hope you can see this. This actually looks kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I'm shooting everything in black and white, so you could also do that in color. Let me do it in color too, see what that looks like. Okay, so here's a color version. It doesn't really show that well. It shows better on the screen in black and white than it does in color. But you could do that. I'm going to try it with my iPhone just to see how close I can get.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
So maybe you don't need a macro setting.
Well, it's a little off, but actually that's better.
Yeah, just a little bit back. I mean, you're practically on it.
Yeah. There. So I could photograph that. Or even some part of it, like the background. Making everybody car sick. Anyway, I mean, the point is that, you know, is to just sort of experiment. Get your camera out and just start taking a lot of photographs and you know, getting close to things and changing it. Yeah, going black and white instead of color. Changing the angle. Here, I'm going to do one with this. Oops, where am I?
Oh, you're there.
You see me?
Yeah, I see your hands.
Yeah, I wish it would show up better on. It's hard there. That's not too bad.
Too many like generations of cameras between.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, screens are. Oops, I hit the wrong button. But you get the idea. I mean, that was just that image. There. There's kind of a delay, so when I try to move something, it's kind of jerky, which is throwing me off a little bit. Anyway, you can see how you can just use about anything. You know, it could be plant material or photographs, stains. And you know, you can kind of reinterpret the meaning of the photograph just by changing angles and getting in close and that sort of thing. And that's, you know, just that little photograph there. And you know, with a computer, you can change the color, the contrast, so that there's a lot of possibilities in that in the editing part as well. But print that out, you know, do a collage on top of that, use that in a collage. You know, that's one of the nice things about things like computers and things. You can make multiple images as well and use those to kind of play around with you know, especially like quilt ideas, you know, it's like just the same image over and over again, like Andy Warhol or something. I'm really fond of high school annual pictures.
And those are some things we found at thrift stores, like old yearbooks.
Yeah, old yearbooks are kind of one of my favorite things. So that's this guy. So you can see the quality is pretty good. Good enough. You know, and I can blow that up a little bit. I'll do that in the camera. Doesn't really work that well, but the screen's pretty pixelated. But that could kind of work to your advantage. And once again, you know, playing around with letters and words. Oops. Everything's moving, like, yeah, kind of weird. But you get the idea. You can, photographing photographs can be really fun. I wanted to show you some rubbing things too, which kind of works really nicely with collage. So these are just rubbings that I made from paper cuts. So here's just one, and it's not really photographic related, but you could photograph these as well. Play around with that sort of thing too. But these are just like faces. These are like little chapbooks that I've been making lately. But this combined with collage, images, like it could be half. This could be half paper cut and half of a photograph, for an example, kind of melted together somehow, and that could be an interesting look as well. But doing the rubbings can be really fun, and I'll just show you how that works here. But anyway, I've done a bunch of these sort of these books. Let's see, where's that one? There's one missing I wanted to show you, but hold on. But for those who like to draw, this is an interesting extension of drawing, where you could make a rubbing, a paper, a frottage, and then draw into it, and kind of play around with that as well. Here's one that I want to show you. I like this technique because it has a kind of a photographic look to it, but they're just rubbings. So combining this with a photographic image could be really interesting. Let me see. You could kind of combine found imagery, photographic imagery. You could actually kind of incorporate into this as well. But if I'm doing these rubbings, let me close this. Give me a second here. I'm just doing a kind of an abstract shape. And so this is a graphite stick. So I just put a piece of paper over that shape. And I like this graphite sticks are like 6B. They're so pretty soft. So they give you a pretty nice effect. Oops. Which is something, you could easily cut these out and make multiples. It could be any kind of a shape. You could take one of your drawings, for an example, make a photocopy of it, cut it out, and then do a rubbing of it, and you'd have that silhouette of that drawing. which you could combine with another drawing, or, you know, they could be a diptych. One could be the silhouette, and one could be the actual drawing. Or you could cut out a photograph or an image from a magazine or something, cut that out as a, you know, and do a silhouette of that, and then combine that with the existing photograph as well. This is crayon here. These are German crayons. They're beeswax crayons. They're actually quite good. So you could, you know, easily, you can just do multiples of these. See that or not? And these could be cut out, or you could collage. You know, you could use this as a background for some kind of a collage element as well. Another thing I like to do is use the photograph itself as a rubbing. So you have that, you know, you have basically this shape, which is the photograph, and then, you know, collage that with that element, and then even do a rubbing in that space. And then, you know, use that as a I mean, I'm not really, it's just some ideas, but see how you can kind of combine those two and to make kind of an interesting diptych. And then it's, you know, it suddenly kind of creates a dialogue between these two images, which is kind of like how I like to work, you know. And of course, these get more and more complicated, depending on how much you want to get into it. And then the other thing, I like to use, I like to make stamps. So I'm making stamps out of, I don't have any close by, but basically it's stamps made out of foam rubber that I just cut out with scissors. It's craft foam, and it's self-adhesive. I wish I had a piece close by. I should have prepared better. I'll find it after this is over. But basically, it's just a sheet of foam rubber that's very thin but very strong, and you can cut it out with scissors and then stick it on a piece of wood, and then it makes these really great stamps. I'll just show you. So this is one that I just made with words. Basically, you can draw into the foam rubber with a ballpoint pen, and it works like a print. So I'll just do that. So they make really pretty great. The other thing, I like arrows. So another thing that would be really great in collage, you know, that you could stamp into your collages. You could make a whole bunch of these, cut them out, and use them as collage elements. Like a little dog here. So you can see they make they make very good stamps, and that's something that you can actually use a lot in your work. Um, I come back to stamping a lot, and I just make a lot of them, so I have them ready all the time if I want to use them. So, add that to your arsenal. Rubbings, it's actually called frottage in the art world, but it's just basically rubbings. And it works really well with just copy paper. You cut out copy paper shapes. And like I said, taking your drawings and making a photocopy of those, cutting them out, and doing a rubbing of that silhouette, and then combining that with the drawing could be really interesting. But also just like, with these rubbings, you can make a lot of different images, a lot of the same image, and then play around with that as well. Anybody have any questions about this? It's pretty straightforward. And I like to use a lot of materials that are really inexpensive. Collage is great in general because, if you're using found imagery, it's always available and it's not expensive. But also the rubbings and the stamping material, all that stuff is pretty cheap and pretty and yet has a lot of possibilities. You'd be surprised how, where you can go with this. It's kind of amazing. That's how I was making all these rubbings, and using the stamp as a title for the book. And you can just combining this with photographic images could be really pretty interesting. This is also an example where I made a lot of photocopies, and then made a photocopy negative, and then printed it in a darkroom. So it's actually a photograph, but it went through a whole bunch of iterations before it started looking like this. I'd like photocopy it, and then photocopy the photocopy, and then photocopy the photocopy again, and then make a negative of it, and then print the negative, and then add contrast in the darkroom. Just lots of different things. It's like, for me, it's like taking an idea and then just seeing how far I can push it, and that always like takes you on some really interesting adventures. And the whole idea is just to do a lot of them, and so you have plenty to work with. Especially when you start using your own imagery too, there's something kind of great about that. When you don't have to rely on other people's imageries, you can use your own and do stuff with that you probably couldn't do with found images. So I'm a big believer in that too. But yeah, I think just combining images together too in different. I was playing around with this morning, just taking some of your photographs and then putting them together in interesting configurations. And then, I was actually playing around with just paper cuts too, combining. Some of these are stuck in the book. This one's really stuck on there. When you want them to stick, they won't. And when you don't want them to stick, they will. So one thing I will do is I'll just sort of put images together, like photographic images like this. And then oftentimes I will just use tape to sort of stick them together on top. So I'll do this first. And then maybe, oops. So I do this instead of gluing them from you know, doing all the gluing. I will just sort of stick them together with tape like this. I thought that was. So then I can just turn that over, and then I could either tape it up in the back. So I'll just do that. Or I could put I could glue paper between the seams too. But in this case, I'll just do some. This is just a demo. And then just remove the tape that's on top. So I don't stick it down really vigorously. I'll just enough to kind of hold it in place. Then I can remove that. It's off a little bit, but you get the idea. You know, and then I could even go back in with a collage element on top of that. Not that that's very interesting, it's not, but I can also kind of go back in and add more to it as well. And then if I wanted to, if I liked the way this looked, then I could, you know, I could trim it down or keep adding until it's kind of all fleshed out. I could add, you know, I could add something up here and something down here. It's just kind of how I work. That bugs me. But I find using tape like this is a great way to kind of work out ideas. Because you can kind of see how it looks together and you know, instead of like using a bunch of glue, because the moment you glue things, you're kind of committed at that point. So using tape can be really handy as a way to kind of put a collage together. You got to be careful if you're using magazine images with some kinds of tape, because especially those like Life magazines, the ink is really pretty bad. And it'll come, the tape will remove the part of the image. So got to be careful. With photographs, it's not that big of an issue because the photographs are really durable and sturdy. So, but I could easily go back in here with magazine images or words. Like I probably would like add some kind of text along the bottom here that would kind of maybe bring these all together in some kind of odd way. I don't know what that would be because I haven't gotten there yet, but kind of like that looks like a signpost. So, you know, working with photographs can be pretty gratifying, you know. And if you have old photographs too, you know, I mean, a lot of us have boxes of, back in the days before digital, there were lots of color snapshots. And if you take those out of context or even cut, just cut them up into different sizes and things, that could be a really interesting way to make collages. You can also look for, eBay is like a great source for imagery as well. Not only magazines and books, but also old photographs, including not so old color photographs. Also talk to your family, if you're like my mom, they literally have boxes of color photographs. Like they would take a family photograph, they wouldn't take just one, they would take like 15 of them, and only one of them was actually even halfway decent, but when you start taking them out of context, they become kind of interesting. And color photographs now are kind of interesting, kind of in a quaint sort of way. They're already becoming sort of antiquated, vintage, which is pretty interesting, especially for somebody like me who kind of grew up in the photographic world. We've gone from, if you look at the history of photography, we went from metal, working on silver plates, to glass negatives, to paper, and from paper we've gone digital. So in a very short amount of time, there's been a lot of innovations, and so we've gone from kind of a physicality of an image to just an idea of an image, a kind of virtual image. Like most people, they have their photographs of their kids on their phones. Like my sisters, they don't do photographs anymore. They just have, an enormous amount of photographs on their phone. And if you're unfortunate enough to get caught in a conversation with them, you have to look at all those photographs. But yeah, the thing that's happening that I see, and it happens with them, they fill up their computer with all these digital images, and then the computer kind of craps out, and then they lose all those images. So they have nothing it's just an idea more nowadays. It's not even a real thing. Like the photographs are just kind of like an extension of your thoughts or something. Kind of interesting. I don't know. I read, do you guys know who Sally Mann is? She's a pretty well-known photographer. She's in her biography, she's talking about how people use photographs now to remember. And that's kind of weird if you think about that. There was a time when people didn't have photographs to remember, but now the photographs play a huge part of our memory process. And that's kind of disconcerting and weird, but true, I think. So, and then one thing about collage, it's a way to kind of encapsulate ideas using images and in kind of like a haiku, or like a kind of poetic way. And if you can use your own photographs, that's even better. But you can also use photographs that remind you of things as well. I have used like images, like old photographs that look like people I know, because I don't want to use my family's photographs, but I might use photographs that look like people in my family, because that's another interesting thing about photographs is we have a certain kind of style that we use to sort of, like in the 50s, people had a certain way of posing, or in the 1920s, people had a kind of an interesting way of posing. In the 1920s, people didn't really smile very much in photographs. In the 1950s, you started seeing more smiles, and because we were kind of prosperous, we'd won World War II, and and we had that kind of, we had this image that we wanted to project to the world. And now also there's a thing about smiling in photographs, but it's interesting because nowadays it seems like that smile is a forced smile. It's like people want to be perceived as being successful. In the 50s, you know, people were successful. Like we were kind of like caught up in this sort of the afterglow of winning the war, and now we're sort of trying to recreate that jubilance, but it's not really the same. It's kind of like a different time, and there's a different subtext to it. Anyway, stuff I think about photography. Photography, I came up in that world, and I have kind of a love-hate relationship with it. It's like I love it, and I kind of wish I could get away from it sometimes, but. So anyway, go ahead.
Paula in the chat mentioned the Seattle Recreate has good photos too.
What is it? Like a antique store or something?
It's an art supplies. Like people resell art supplies.
Oh yeah. And so people might have photographs that you can get there.
Yeah.
Boxes of postcards, photographs, old magazines.
That's a great idea.
Papers, yeah.
I'll get over there.
Well, photographs are just interesting on so many levels, you know. They can add a whole nother layer to an idea. How late does this go, Kim?
I thought it was 1.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I think that's right.
I'm going to put, like I said, in the general thing after we're done here, a list of collage artists that we recommend, including the one and the photographer that Larry mentioned earlier. And then also like some of the collage supplies that we use, which is scissors and glue and an X-Acto knife. But
yeah, I didn't even touch on that. Yeah, I mean that's true. And I'll I like these little scissors, by the way.
Yeah,
am I still on the?
They're KAI 5100s, and they're available on Amazon or at sewing stores.
Yeah, and if you're lucky, if you can get a hold of these scissors, these are called Dovo silhouette scissors, but they're not making them anymore. But they're also very good scissors. I like really little scissors with very sharp points because I can move around. I do a lot of paper cutting as well, and so they're handy, but also for collage. One little trick about cutting, I just touched on that briefly, but if you're cutting an image out of a magazine, first of all, I always just rough it out. So I have, so I don't have a huge amount of paper kind of hindering my movements. And the other thing I do, and probably you guys who do a lot of collage know this trick, but you move the paper and not the scissors. Oops. I had too much coffee, so I'm kind of shaky.
Story of my life.
Yeah.
I had a teacher that said he would, if he really had to do something fine, he would get up and do it and then have his coffee.
Yeah. Well, like I used to teach jewelry making in high school.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes I would have too much coffee and I'd have the student like, Okay, hold on to my arm so I'm not shaking when I'm a thought or something. But yeah, but definitely moving the paper. And what I recommend to get started to learn that trick is just to take a piece of scrap paper and just do squiggly cuts. And there's also a lot of really, it's very important to have good timing as well. So there's a certain kind of music and rhythm to it as you know as you go. And seeing how fine of a cut you can make. All that stuff can really be helpful when you're doing collage. That fell on his face, and I kind of like the way that looks.
Yeah, I like that too.
That happens to me sometimes. I'll be, just some weird thing will fall, and I think that's exactly where that needs to be. I don't know if I believe in magic, but I do see it sometimes. So. But I hope this is helpful. I hope, it gives you some just different approaches to making collage. I really recommend looking at that list that Kim has produced. There you'll see a lot of different collages, and usually what I do in a class, I will have people choose 5 of their favorites, and then 5 of their least favorites. And then at the end of the class, I will ask them that same question again. And it's interesting to see how people change. The more aware you become of all these different approaches, and you kind of evolve. And I think that's one of the importance of looking at art. It's super important to constantly expose yourself to new ideas, and just like you would music or anything. It's like it enhances the way you look at the world, and not that you're going to copy what this person's doing. It's like you see how they're approaching it, and you can use some of those same techniques of how to approach an idea. And I think that's invaluable. The other thing is to look at your work a lot. Just after you've done some pieces, pin them up on the wall, do whatever you have to do, but spend some time just looking at them, just sort of, there's something very good about that process, and it's very satisfying. You'll see a lot of photographs of artists like in their studio. Oftentimes there's somebody sitting in a big chair just staring at a painting, and I don't know, it's like you're imbuing it with energy, but it definitely, I think it's really important to do that. The same with the collage, everything. And, sometimes also letting it rest, make a collage, and then set it aside and come back to it the next day, and see if it talks to you, see if there's something you need to change about it. But it's a very cool process. Collage is, I call collage like the art of the 21st century. We're like in this image glut of, it's like you can't turn around with. I mean, like on Facebook, I mean, billions of images get uploaded every day, or Instagram, or we are an image-based society, and so how do you process that? And collage is a great way. It helps kind of, for me, it helps, and I love the process. I like making collages a lot. I would do that all the time if I could. But it's also something that you can incorporate into other, we talked about quilting, drawing. If you start looking at a lot of collages, you're going to see people using a lot of different approaches, drawing, painting, watercolor, acrylic, silhouettes. It's just like, it's good to, to reach out and grab some of those different things and work them into your collages. Stamping. Oh, Paula, do you know Gee's Bend quilts?
Mm-hmm.
They're great, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
In China, there's another form of collage called Jiba, G-E-B-A, and it's these kind of out of the way country villages, and the women collect scraps of cloth over the years, and then they make collages out of them, and they have like kind of contests, and they're beautiful. They're kind of like Gee's Bend quilts, but a little looser, and they don't sew. They're all just glued, but it's all bits of old cloth, and they're really inspiring.
Yeah.
If you get a chance, check them out. I think they might be listed on our list, but if they're not.
Yeah, otherwise do like Jiba, G-E-B-A, and then like Chinese quilting or Chinese fabric art.
Yeah. It's just interesting to see things like that and to realize that that's another approach, you know. And when we do the textile class, we will definitely cover them as well. See. Visa Butler, who's that?
She's an African American visual artist who does. She's exhibiting right now at the Art Institute of Chicago.
Okay.
And sort of converts photographs into. She reproduces photographs using textiles.
Oh, I have seen her work. Yeah, really great. A lot of work.
It's kind of mind blowing.
Yes. Yeah, I have seen it. Yeah, really. Faith Reingold is another mixed media artist, and Bet Starr. I like all of those, you know, those quote women's work kind of art forms. They are totally underrepresented, and it's a real shame because textile arts, especially, I really like. I do a lot of textile work, some dress sculptures and that sort of thing, and you know. I think that art form, weaving, you know, Annie Albers, a great artist. I'm glad to see that there's kind of like a better understanding of how important that work is. You know, I love it. I was just going to mention something else.
So someone asked about emailing the list. What it'll do is there's a general folder if you go into Teams, and that's how you clicked on to get into the class, and it'll be listed there, like my 2 documents.
Yeah, you should be able to just click on that and it'll.
Or also, if you go to the top of that open, whatever that entryway is, there's generals, there's posts, and there'll be files. And I guess there's also a class evaluation in there if you want to fill that out. I just saw. So it's under photo and collage and then general. But they're not there yet. I got to be able to pick up my computer and get my face right into it.
Oh, I know. I was Dorothy Caldwell. Do you know her work, Paula? She's great. She's a textile artist, and I really love her work. And you can find some good videos, interviews with her on the internet. YouTube or something. But yeah, another great artist, and works with like batik and dirt and really interesting, and yeah, brilliant work. She went to Australia, and she brought a sketchbook, and this, she rubbed dirt wherever she went. She rubbed the local dirt there, and so the sketchbook is all these different shades of dirt. Bye. Thank you, everybody. But yeah, so it's just a big, thick book of all these different colors of dirt rubbed into paper. Quite brilliant. She lives in Canada. Well, I guess we're done. So
Thank
any
you so much.
questions?
This was really, really, it was really fun. Thank you.
Oh, thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, and if you
Yeah.
have any questions, you can post them in that general too. It's up for a while.
Okay. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
take pictures of lots of things now.
Yeah,
Definitely.
don't. Yeah, I should have mentioned that to everybody, but yeah, don't hold back. I mean, it's digital. You can take 1,000 pictures.
Yeah. That's
Right.
also great. Yeah,
You're
exactly.
not precious.
Also, I have boxes and boxes of photographs that are the very description of what you said before, which is like 4 different versions of the same pose.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go find those.
So many possibilities with those. Yeah. I have used a lot of my mom's photographs of the sky, because she's kind of a dreamer. I mean, how cool to have a mom that just likes to photograph the sky. I always thought that was so kind of lovely and poetic,
Exactly.
So I'm grateful for that.
Well, thank you. I'm gonna I'm gonna look for, will look online for the next Pratt classes. They all sound
Oh
very
yeah, there's one that's coming up that's going to be on Mondays. It's just sort of a free flow, some demos, but people talking about their work and sharing stuff. And I think it's going to be really cool.
Yeah. That's about the best method of doing online.
Yeah.
It's not something
Yeah.
you can't really do. It's just too complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, having a conversation and
Yeah.
sharing work.
Yeah.
But seeing how somebody works is amazing. So thank
Yeah,
you.
I love that. I could watch it.
I
all
always
day.
like seeing that myself.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Chopping
All right.
cake.
Take care, everybody.
Okay,
Thank
nice
you.
to meet you.
Nice to
Nice to meet you guys.
Bye.
Okay, what do I do now? Just
Just leave. Oh, the recording.
yeah. Should I dismiss it or just? I'll just leave. It'll turn off, won't it?
I think it will.
Yeah.
I assume.
Not, I'll have a really long recording. I'm gonna turn my. Hang on.
Yeah. So I'm thinking I'm going to work on some of, I got some frames and work on playing with that a little bit. And then maybe we'll stop by John and I tomorrow or something.
Okay.
Or Monday or whatever.
Yeah, that sounds good. Susie might come out today.
Yeah.
Diane came out yesterday.
Did she bring you some frames too? Or?
Yeah, some 11 by 14s.
Oh, good. So are you just putting you're doing there's the backing and then your watercolor paper and then the image on that and then the glass?
Yeah.
Are you putting spacers between the background and the, okay. So I'll do the same thing.
Yeah, I think that kind of holds it in place too.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, I might work on some today. I could put all the hangers on the paintings yesterday.
Oh, good.
I just need to put the wires on, but the hard part is putting all the little D-rings on,
Yeah. How do you do? Do you have to hammer them in or
screw them in?
screw them
So I
in?
have to drill a hole and then I have to hand screw them in. So
Because
yeah.
I may need to put a D-ring on something sometime. So
I got a bunch.
I'll bring it out.
Bring it out. Yeah, and bring that weird device out. I want to see that.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's so much fun. I love it. It's so
That'd be great for this. It's like perfect.
it's
So
kind of cheesy, but it's kind of awesome.
No, that's what I
It's
like.
very awesome.
Well, that was an interesting experience.
Mhm. it was really different because, you know, you have a lot to show. And so
Yeah.
that was really with photography, that's all you can really do is.
I know, and I do love it. I mean, I do like photography. I mean, I love and hate it at the same time. It's kind of complicated, but
But if it was like a multiple time class, you could do this part first, and then people take photos for the next week.
exactly. And then I could respond to their photographs and give
Right.
them
Then
some
it would
ideas, and
become
yeah,
this great dialogue. And then
Yeah.
like even like they show their photos, and then maybe the week after that they could do collages or something, and just
oh yeah, it's, you know, this is definitely just a taste, and but
Yeah,
it could be something more complicated.
but it's a great start, and it was really interesting. So
Thanks for your help. That was great. I appreciate it.
I didn't have as much to offer to this one because it's more your forte.
Yeah, yeah. But I wish there was a way to hook my camera into the computer so people could see what I'm
There
photographing.
probably is. Maybe if John comes out with me, we can look and see if there's a
Yeah,
way.
there are a couple little jacks on the
Yeah,
side.
because that's how like digital photography, like when I went to like a professional studio in the early days, that's how they were doing it.
Yeah.
You know, so they could look
Maybe John can help and I can look into it as well.
because they could look at the image right away. I don't know if they were like then, you know, sending the image out to someone else to see, but you could see it on your computer.
Yeah, it seems like there's got to be a way to do that because that would be helpful, you know,
Yeah.
instead of people trying to see.
Right.
So I did find some images that showed okay, you know, if you hold it
Yeah.
up.
But multiple screens is
Yeah.
kind of hard.
Yeah. Well, that's why you can't really teach a class and have people do stuff in the class because nobody has down cameras and
Yeah.
I mean you can do kind of a version of it, but it's not that great.
No, it's better like if we photograph our stuff and then show it to everyone.
Yeah, I would love to see what people would do.
Yeah, I think that would be a fun, longer class sometime.
Yeah.
Because originally it had to be in person, but it really doesn't.
No,
Go out.
especially things like writing and photography too. You know, that's stuff that it can be seen on a screen, you know, and pretty easy.
Yeah. We've done parts of it in classes like where we took photos and then made collages of that, which is so it really could be like a 4-week class or.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I didn't do the thing where making a photograph and then doing a collage version of it because it's time consuming and
Right. Yeah, it's not really. But if you had people like see your stuff, do their photos, then spend a few weeks doing stuff with those photos or taking more photos.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, I think especially if they get past the notion that they have to be like high quality, they don't. I mean,
right.
In fact, some of my favorite photographs are like snapshots and
right.
blurry and
then even working with like laser prints that you printed off your printer.
Yeah, and if I had more time, I would have done something like that just to show them, but I was too busy with other stuff yesterday, so.
No, but also you had the samples in there. You had stuff with different.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of ideas to get started with.
Yeah, I think I hope so. I hope that, there'll be something that people can use.
Yeah. It's so much richer to add that to the collage than, our friend, the 50s lady.
I think so. Yeah.
It brings so much more. It just expands your mind that you can.
Yeah, it's not just stuck in some kind of holding pattern. That's what I feel like a lot of collages just everybody's doing what everybody else is doing and that weird nostalgia stuff. I'm sick of it.
Yeah, you just see the same images even coming from National Geographic and the ad.
Right.
But when you have people here that are do drawings and do quilts and everything, then they can bring all that different stuff. Or even the printmakers who are always tearing up their old prints. So.
Yeah. Well, when I what was her name? Selena?
Yeah, Selena.
Because I saw her nodding her head when I was talking about you could do a drawing, cut out a drawing and then do a rubbing of it and then combine that.
Yeah,
See, like the lights going on. I love that.
right. And yeah, you can draw into your collages but yeah, how
Yeah.
you can use that same thing for a stamp and a rubbing and a
Yeah,
cutout.
just kind of keeping it going and expanding it, you know.
Yeah, and your burned out photos, using those shapes.
Yeah, maybe I'll burn some photographs and show that sometime. Just make a collection of those because I used to have a whole bunch. They're pretty interesting.
The ones you torch.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I like the
'Cause
ones with the stencil where you burned out the people.
Oh yeah, that too.
Yeah, that too. Both of those are like really interesting. No, I guess it was when I was just out. That was the first time I saw one that you torched.
Yeah.
It was like, that is cool.
Yeah,
And that's like great for those old 70s photos that are horrible.
Yeah, well, and this particular kind of photographic paper is great because it responds really an interesting way to torch to heat. So
yeah, maybe we should try torching this Canon paper. That
I have done some. It tends to bubble up pretty.
doesn't blister.
dramatic, but that might be interesting.
Yeah,
But
it's fall. It's time for the torch.
exactly. Yeah, and we could even do that outside with the camera with the down camera now that
Yeah,
it's
make a recording.
Yeah. That new battery made all the difference.
Yeah, I didn't know. I thought if you had it plugged in, it would just stay, but you have to have the battery it won't work without it.
All complicated.
Yeah, too complicated.
I know. Well, that was
Okay,
good.
I'm gonna go get something to eat.
Okay.
But-
I'm going to, I guess maybe I'll take a little break, then maybe I'll start putting pictures under glass.
Yeah, me too. And then I'll either tomorrow or early in the week I'll come out.
Kind of gloomy out today.
Oh, it's so gloomy. I'll see how far I get.
Okay, sounds good.
Well, this was
See you soon.
great.
Yeah, thanks for help.
You're
Bye.
welcome. See you soon.